Hi there, everybody. It's Marc Laurenson here from Sydney Astrology School. And thank you for joining me as we go into episode number 11 in our Sex and Intimacy series. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at the sign of Gemini and the planet Mercury, which of course rules Gemini. Now, as I said in previous clips, we are not necessarily going to be talking about people with the sun in Gemini or the moon in Gemini. I'm more interested in people who've got Gemini on the cusp of the 5th house or the cusp of the 8th house or the planet Mercury in those particular houses. Okay, so we've already kind of looked at Mercury in the Virgo clip, but Mercury acts very differently in air than it does in Earth. Okay, and so when we're looking at Gemini, we're looking at mutable air. Okay, so as you can feel with mutable air, there's a lot of movement going on here. Okay, so when we're thinking of the Gemini energy, the movement is really going on between the ears. It's mental movement. It needs to be mentally stimulated, and so therefore that's going to come in quite strongly in the area of relationship and intimacy. So to be mentally stimulated in this area, what does that actually mean? Communication is going to be big. You know, the need to be able to talk to somebody else and to have that free-flowing kind of energy. It's a relationship kind of energy between them on that level. They might actually get turned on by what's being said. A lot of people might actually say Gemini kind of gets horny through the words more than anything else. Not saying that getting physically close or emotionally close won't do it, but I do know with Gemini there is something about what's going on the level of being able to connect and understand each other and be able kind of like to titillate each other in the with the mind and through the brain. If you're with a person, if you've got lots of Gemini in these particular houses or Mercury in these houses, if you're with somebody who can't talk or who doesn't want to talk or really lacks the energy lacks the energy on the level of communing in that way, I want to say that for you it's going to be a very, very challenging relationship, and it might not even work. Okay, so as I said, Gemini loves to be able to be in situations or areas to do with the toing and the froing of what's going on. Gemini needs to know. Gemini needs to understand. So I'm going to go down the road of saying the truth, the absolute truth, is really, really important for Gemini. You know, to be able to put it all out there on the table. This particularly is the 8th house area. To be able to expose what's going on, to be able to talk about how you're feeling, or to be able to talk about your innermost, the shadow areas of who you are as well. This is going to be really, really important for people who've got this energy in these houses. Now, in the 5th house, it's going to be a little bit more playful. It's going to be a little bit more visual, I imagine. Gemini can be a very visual sign. Like Libra are very visual signs. So they get turned on by what they see as well. This can be on the level of, the visual things that go on between two people, but they can also be turned on by pictures or what goes on the internet as well. I find that Gemini can have great relationships with people that they don't even really have to be in physical proximity. I feel that as long as they can communicate, and this can be done through emails, this can be done by phone, of course this can be done on the internet so easily these days, that, for a lot of Geminis, I'm not saying that that's enough, that can be enough, but I do feel that the stimulation that they're after can actually come that way or easily that way. Back in the old days, before we all had all this technology, it would have been love letters. It would have been writing to each other, and it would have been that thrill or that sexual joy that would have come from opening a letter of sorts. So you're getting a feeling of what I'm talking about here with Gemini as well. Gemini is always looking for ways of being taught. Gemini has this kind of versatile understanding or built-in kind of inquisitiveness or built-in curiosity about what's going on. And so this has to come in its own way as well. This is this feeling of, I want to know everything about you. I want to really get mentally involved in you. It's almost like I want to merge with an understanding of what's going on here, or an understanding of you is really, really important. If you've got the Gemini energy more, in the fifth house area, the fifth house is a lot lighter than the eighth house. The eighth house tends to go down a much more intense road, where the fifth house is much more playful with this. I want to say that a lot of movement needs to happen here. And when I say movement, I mean the versatility that I'm talking about is not necessarily jumping from one partner to another. I mean, that can happen, of course, but it feels a little bit like I want to mix it up a bit. I don't want to have to be doing the same thing over and over again. I get bored very quickly with that kind of sex or with that kind of way of connecting. I need to be able to do it in different ways and be able to bring in new things and be able to we need to learn about each other in different ways and unusual ways sometimes. It always needs the flexibility and adaptability to be able to change, and to be able to change almost spontaneously or in the moment. This is really, really important for the Gemini energy as well. So Mercury in air and in those particular houses, and that Gemini feeling. Gemini is always going to be about duality in some kind of way. And so there might be times where you really have to, again, flip it on its head. Sometimes I feel that it can run hot and cold too. It has that feeling of moodiness that goes on in this area. And there's a feeling of you having to, what I want to say, it's like having to be comfortable with that or accept that in you. It's going to be sometimes I'm really, really into it and it's all guns blazing, and other times I'm kind of not, my attention's somewhere else, and it's not necessarily going to be there all the time. So you really have to understand both sides of it. You have to understand the duality of your nature, and to be able to honor, that's the word I was looking for earlier, you have to be able to honor both sides of the Gemini energy, both sides of the Gemini personality and the Gemini nature. So just wrapping up on Gemini in these particular areas, or Mercury in air in these particular areas, the fact of you needing the stimulation or the sexual stimulation or the relationship stimulation really rests very much on you being with a person who can actually give you what you need, or you can share something on the level of being able to talk, be able to, I want to say laugh, because Gemini can be a very, very funny sign. Talk, laugh, commune, understand, kind of turn each other on with what you say. Some people might call it dirty talk. That kind of stuff is really, really important. But I think that, communication in every single relationship is very, very important. But for Gemini, it is right up the top of what they need. And if you're in a relationship that stimulates you mentally as much as stimulates you everywhere else, then you are going to be in a relationship that not only is going to please you and make you happy, but it's more than likely going to be lasting quite a long time.